Good evening. My name is Michael Griffin. I'm honored to serve as a chair of the Lead Me campaign for the Susan L. Curtis Charitable Foundation. On behalf of the board, the staff, and all our campers, I extend a warm and grateful welcome to each and every one of you, especially Governor Ken and Polly Curtis. I'm proud to be here representing Citizens Bank, one of tonight's sponsors, where I'm a senior vice president with the commercial bank. This dinner is a culmination of the Lead Me campaign, focusing on leadership education and development for Maine, through which the foundation raises funds to ensure that Camp Susan Curtis can continue serving 500 disadvantaged Maine children each year. The successful campaign that we are celebrating tonight will allow us to serve 213 of the 500 campers this summer. Thank you. You read my mind, because I was going to say I'd like to thank you all for your support in helping raise these funds for the campers. At Camp Susan Curtis, every child matters, and every donation to the children of Camp Susan Curtis is valued and appreciated. To help you share in the Camp Susan Curtis experience just a little, our giving levels are named after camper cabins. Each cabin is named after one of Maine's highest mountains and symbolizes the inspiration, challenge, and achievement that are part of the Camp Susan Curtis legacy. We have many sponsors to thank, and I'd ask that you hold your applause till the end. At the Katahdin cabin level, we'd like to acknowledge and thank Citizens Bank, Binga's Restaurant, the Greg H. Altman Foundation, TD Bank, Jan and Scott Searway. At the Sugarloaf cabin level, we acknowledge and thank Fairpoint Communications, Poland Spring, Exclusive Media Magazine sponsor Maine Magazine. Our Saddleback cabin includes Susan and Jack Thomas, Paul G. White, Interior Solutions, Pulp Plus Wire, Bangor Savings, Chinbro, Machias Savings Bank, Hannaford, and Helen Chinchette. Procter & Gamble, Mr. and Mrs. Richard O'Leary, Karen Hansen, Best Buy Foundation, Fisher Charitable Foundation, Morton Kelly Charitable Trust, Helen and George Ladd Charitable Corporation, Speedway Children's Charities, the H.W. Wilson Foundation, Stevens Community Healthcare Foundation. At the Cranberry cabin level, Pratt Abbott, L.L. Bean, Purdy Powers and Company, Michael E. Pizzo and Maria Trivelin, Crooker Construction, LLC, Francis Hollis Brain Foundation, and at the Tumbledown cabin level, thank you to Ken and Polly Curtis, WEX, Alliance Press, Laura and Steve Beckman, Unum, Jake's Seafood Restaurant, A.H. Blackstone Excavating, Shaw Brothers Construction, Fat Seamus Productions, Thomas and Jennifer Pelletier, Tex Tech Industries, Curtis Thaxter, Attorneys at Law, Headlight Audio Visual, Portland Marriott at Sable Oaks, Ice-It Bakery, Charles P. Harriman, Douglas and Linda Herman, Athena Health, Inc., Northeast Delta Dental, Franklin Savings Bank Community Development Foundation, the Portland Press Herald and Maine Sunday Telegram, and the Margaret E. Burnham Charitable Trust. Our many sponsors at the Caribou and Sabattis cabin levels have our heartfelt appreciation. Please see the printed programs at your table and sponsor slideshow during dinner for a listing of these wonderful supporters. Now please join me in a round of applause for all those that I've recognized tonight and to all our guests and the Lead Me campaign supporters. Now please, help me by welcoming our Master of Ceremonies, Kim Block, WGME 13 news anchor, a member of our Visibility Committee and a longtime supporter of Camp Susan Curtis.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I could see Michael furtively looking around to make sure I'd walked in the door. I'm kind of double parked out front, but all is well. It's so nice to be with all of you here tonight on this lovely first day of spring. Aren't we lucky to be in Maine? Oh, my goodness. What a winter, right? It is truly my pleasure once again to be here with all of you supporting this year's Lead Maine campaign today that will enable the children of Camp Susan Curtis to change tomorrow. Governor Ken Curtis and his wife Polly and all of their friends here and in this room founded the Susan L. Curtis Charitable Foundation in memory of their daughter, Susan L. Curtis. The visionary founders of Camp Susan Curtis concluded that a key strategy in securing Maine's economic future was to invest in its economically disadvantaged children. They refused to accept that any child growing up in Maine should lack the habits and the skills that he or she needs to achieve. 4 decades later now, which is amazing, right? Camp Susan Curtis is still providing a critical intervention for around 500 new and returning participants every year. Since 1974, Camp Susan Curtis has served more than 16,000 socially and economically disadvantaged Maine children. It's remarkable, the vision you had and what has happened since. So during this event, you will learn more about what happens at this very special camp and the impact it has made on the lives of children in need across Maine. Please remember, it is only really with your support that these children have the opportunity to attend Camp Susan Curtis, where they develop some of the critical skills that they will need for lifelong achievement. As many of you know, Camp Susan Curtis lost one of its most dedicated supporters last year in Scott F. Hutchinson. We would like to share with you now a video that illuminates how grateful Camp Susan Curtis campers are for this life-changing experience and how important it is to carry on the legacy of Scott's support for the camp. Special thanks to Shay Murphy of Fat Seamus Productions for his work on this presentation, which I hope you will enjoy.
As you probably know, Governor and Mrs. Curtis' 9-year-old daughter, Susan, passed away with cystic fibrosis. People of Maine, being very generous, sent money into the governor in memoriam to Susan, and he gave it to me as a banker to put in an account to see what we should do with it. We had all kinds of ideas to begin with. There was 4 or 5 of us that started meeting on it. There was Ken, there was Bob Dunphy, Chuck Chinchette, and myself. A fellow by the name of Charles Sharp was the sheriff of Cumberland County at the time, and he had lunch with us one day and suggested that we ought to look into young people that had less than the advantages of other children because of their financial background and their financial well-being. He suggested that it would be nice if we had a camp for them and it could give them an experience to build their self-esteem, and said that in many instances the youngsters that got into trouble was because they had very low self-appreciation of themselves.
I think Scott is my mentor. He did teach me banking, but like I said, he always taught me that you don't have to be too serious in your life. You can have fun and still be a professional. And I think his impact on me was that I wanted to do that my entire career at the bank. Yes, we had to do business during the day. You were a professional, but you always could smile and say and take care of things without getting too serious.
Camp Susan Curtis began with the goal of making life better for children growing up with disadvantages. The program is a testament to the clarity of the vision of its founders and key lead contributors.
Leaders in their fields, all possessing that hallmark of great leadership, the desire and ability to recognize and nurture talent in others, none more so than the late Scott F. Hutchinson, to whom we pay tribute.
The leadership program was developed at Camp Susan Curtis several years ago, quite a few years ago actually. And I'm very happy to be able to say that program, which is where the youngsters who want to continue with the camp become junior counselors and counselors and senior counselors and so forth, become staff at the end. 83% of them approximately go to college. 96% of them graduate from high school. That's quite an achievement because these youngsters came from backgrounds where people had kind of said, well, they can't do it. But we proved, and they have proved, and the camp has shown them that with a little bit of a help and a little bit of courage, that they can do anything and everything they want to be.
I think one of the things I'm most fortunate to have, when I got involved with the Canal Bank years ago, which later became Key, I ended up with Scott as my mentor.
I like to make myself believe that planet Earth turns slowly. It's hard to say that I'd rather stay awake when I'm asleep, 'cause everything is never as it seems. 'Cause I got 1,000 hugs, 10,000 lightning bugs. They try to teach me how to dance. Got above my head, a sock off beneath my bed, a disco ball is just hanging by a thread. I like to make myself believe that planet Earth turns slowly. It's hard to say that I'd rather stay awake when
You not only taught me the ins and outs of banking, and also to have a lot of fun, that he taught me that I should always look to giving back in my community and get involved with something that you can readily recognize the end result. And he first took me to Camp Susan Curtis on a work detail. It didn't take me long to find out that this is something that I wanted to be involved with, because my background is such that there was always someone to give me a leg up when I was growing up.
But I'll know where several are. My dreams get real bizarre, as I say with you when I'm in the middle jar. I like to make myself believe that planet Earth turns slow.
I need a little bit of a helping hand, whether it's guiding them a little bit, getting them away from their home, to come to camp and have a little fun, but also to build their character and self-esteem. I think that means a lot. The more we can build on it, the better. And I thank Scott for getting me started with all of that.
What a wonderful man. It's okay to be away from home sometimes. What kid doesn't say that, right? Now I would like to introduce to you somebody very special. We always have such inspirational speakers at these dinners, and I'm very excited to meet Dr. Elise Corbett, who was a camper for 4 years in the late 90s. Elise embodies the character strengths, the skills, and the motivation to achieve that are all fostered through the Camp Susan Curtis experience and then carried into adulthood. We appreciate her willingness to share her story with us tonight, so please join me in welcoming Dr. Elise Corbett.
Welfare kids don't go to college. I so distinctly remember sitting in my 8th grade classroom, hearing these words leap from my teacher's mouth and knock the wind out of me. I can't remember the context or what other things we'd been learning about. I just remember feeling like there was a spotlight shining on me. Not that good kind of spotlight, the one you feel when you've done something well. Maybe a microscope is a better analogy, one that zoomed in on what I tried to hide from everyone, that I was a welfare kid. This memory has become one of those forever etched in my mind. It was traumatic, as you can see. And for a moment, I remember feeling a profound sense of helplessness, that there was nothing I could do because here was somebody with credibility telling me that my future was statistically empty of opportunities for higher education, professional identity, and success. Thankfully, there were louder voices around me who offered me words of encouragement and hope. These voices were found in my parents, other teachers, and in the community of friends, counselors, and mentors at Camp Susan Curtis. I started at camp just a couple of years before this incident at school, and I'm quite certain that without the collective experiences I'd had there, this teacher's statement would have pierced even more deeply. I remember arriving for camp that first day of my first summer as a camper. I was full of that kind of anxiety that is both excited and scared, kind of like now. I quickly found comfort, though, as I settled into my cabin. It was cabin number 3 at that time, into the warm welcome of my fellow campers and the staff. There was one counselor in particular that summer. Her name was Julie, and she was from Scotland, and I found a really special connection with her. My mother was very proud of her Scottish heritage, and I'd been curious about the culture. Julie shared with me tales from her homeland and helped me see beyond the borders of the world I knew. I felt taken care of at camp when I was a camper, completely safe. I was fortunate to have a lot of support at home too, but coming from the home of a single mother, my parents divorced when I was about 10 after years of a tumultuous marriage. And being the oldest, my little brother was always too little to do many of the chores. I grew up faster than it seemed many of my friends did. Safety wasn't something that I always felt growing up, and it felt so nice to really be a kid while I was at camp. As I spent the next 3 years at camp, I moved through the positions of leader in training and counselor in training, where I was entrusted with a certain amount of responsibility and began to appreciate the impact that me, could have on other people. I most vividly remember my year in cabin number 2 as a counselor in training, where the 8-year-old girls in my cabin would ask me to sing them to sleep every night. I remember having young girls move through a whole range of developmental firsts. You wouldn't even believe it. Other leadership roles I was able to take on included lifeguarding at the waterfront on beautiful Trout Pond. I remember watching campers take their swimming tests to determine if they were going to be red, yellow, or green swimmers, and the impact that I was able to have with my words to offer them encouragement if they weren't at the level that they wished to be, or congratulations for those who were. I felt firsthand that I made a difference. That school year after I finished as a CIT at camp, I was elected to be a natural helper for my class. Natural Helpers was a program that involved training students to be peer supports to other students who were having a hard time with family, their emotions, drug use, suicidality, you name it. And like many high school experiences can be, I figured this was likely a popularity contest, read not me. But I was floored when I heard my name read aloud as one of 2 students nominated by my peers to serve the class in this way. My experiences at camp set the stage for me to draw upon my leadership and helping skills with confidence and pride. These experiences together set the stage for my setting my sights on a career as a psychologist and a mission to prove that 8th grade teacher wrong. Academically, I worked very hard in high school. Admittedly, I was somewhat obsessive about my grades, but looking back, that was my lifeline. They were my ticket to college admission, graduate school, and a life where I could break generations of abuse and poverty in my family. I struggled with my SATs and navigated much of the college application process on my own. I was the first in my family to apply to and attend a 4-year college. Despite concerns that I was reaching too high, these are words from my high school guidance counselor, I was admitted to Smith College. Thank you. I was sharing dorms with international princesses, really. daughters of politicians, doctors, lawyers. It was intimidating. I had a tremendous amount of encouragement, though, from my parents, the good friends I'd made in high school, and in that ultimate knowing that no matter what, I make a difference. I remember days at Smith where I'd see people out and about for a leisurely stroll and thinking, wow, maybe someday I can go for a walk. I was buried in studies, papers, research, and theoretical conversations that challenged so many parts of me. It was hard, and it was amazing. And in my final year at Smith, my mother was diagnosed with lung cancer that had spread to her brain. It was a very difficult year and a difficult decision about whether or not to even return to school for my senior year. Through her tears, though, my mother shared with me how important it was for her to see me graduate. Thankfully, she was there for my graduation, and it was a shared achievement with her, my father, my now husband, and so many others who've cared about me and for me through the years. I moved on to working for Harvard Medical School and Children's Hospital Boston, where I spent 2 years doing research in psychiatry to try and better understand the emotional impact of chronic illness in kids. We made some amazing advances in how to help provide support to children and their families coping with chronic illness, and I was published alongside an amazing team of researchers several times over in several prestigious academic journals. Once again, the world showed me that I made a difference. And next came graduate school at Colorado State University, where I earned my PhD in clinical psychology. After 7 years of graduate school, I am now a licensed psychologist in a thriving private practice here in Portland. At present, my roles in life are multidimensional: daughter, sister, wife, mother, though include a few identifiers I'm pretty sure my 8th grade teacher didn't think that I would reach: doctor, business owner, published author. I see the difference that I make in people's lives every day, in the stories of a client's healing, in the pride in my father's eyes, in the loving gaze of my husband, and in the joyful smiles of my children. I know, too, that in order for me to continue to make a difference in the world, I need my circle of support. There's a book I read to my 2 daughters titled On the Night You Were Born, and there's a section of that book that deeply touches my heart and soul. And it reads, "For never before in story or rhyme, not even once upon a time, has the world ever known a you, my friend, and it never will, not ever again. Heaven blew every trumpet and played every horn on the wonderful, marvelous night you were born." I wish for my children to know that they make a difference. I believe every person should be told time and time again how uniquely marvelous they are, that the impact we make in the world is distinctly associated with who we are and how we are. My experiences at Camp Susan Curtis awakened me to my individual strengths, talents, and abilities. I know now that I make a difference, and for me, it really began with camp. What's more, Camp Susan Curtis connected me to a collective community who together make a powerful difference in the lives of so many children and families. We are all here tonight because we share in the value and mission of Camp Susan Curtis, and I quote, "to build the individual character, self-confidence, and self-esteem of economically disadvantaged Maine children." As mentioned earlier, this is the celebration of raising $256,000 for this year's annual campaign, supporting 213 of 500 children this summer. On behalf of the children, we are so grateful, and I want to say a big thank you. Because we still have hundreds of children to support, I am asking, as one life who has been so significantly impacted by Camp Susan Curtis, that you take this opportunity to make a donation, large or small, this evening. If on average everyone donates $50 tonight, that will sponsor 16 of the remaining 287 children attending Camp Susan Curtis this summer. Remember, that's an average. We do not expect everyone to give at that level, but I do hope you will do what you can. As an incentive, anyone making a pledge this evening will be entered into a drawing for a one-night stay at the beautiful and picturesque Harbor Town Inn in Boothbay Harbor, or a Bowie local gift card for $100. I invite all of you to consider the impact that you can have on the life of a Maine child like me, that you can make a difference. Camp Susan Curtis is committed to remaining tuition-free for all children, and we all rely on the generous contributions of others in order to keep it that way. I am sincerely grateful to all of you who support Camp Susan Curtis and to those who have worked to implement its mission. I am honored to have been asked to be here this evening and to share my story. We have pledge cards sitting at your table. Simply fill it out, make your pledge, and one of the camp staff will be around to answer any questions you may have. Run your credit card and collect the pledge. At the end of the program, we will announce how many more campers were supported this summer. I think dinner is next, so please enjoy your dinner, and we will be back with you soon. Thank you.
Good evening. I hope you all enjoyed your dinner. And we thank the Marriott Sable Oaks, especially General Manager Ed Palmer, Catering Manager Meg Poulin, Chef Chris Merriam, and tonight's terrific banquet staff for creating a delicious meal in a beautiful setting for all of us. My name is Melissa Silley, and I am Executive Director of the Susan L. Curtis Charitable Foundation. Our camp director, Terry Molks, will join me up here in a few minutes to share with you the tremendous impact of the programs you are supporting. For this brief time that I have with you, I want to reinforce the impact of our programs and the impact that those programs have on the state of Maine and the dozens of communities within it. You're here tonight because you have invested in our programs and the children we serve. I invite you to ask the question, is this a sound investment? I believe that in hearing Elise's story, your heart knows that it is. I intend to show you that your head can agree with your heart. Investing in our economically disadvantaged Maine children makes good business sense. When we make an investment, we look for one that will compound over time. And when we make a good investment, we see amazing results. Who among us doesn't wish we had been in on the ground floor of Apple? Well, the children of Camp Susan Curtis are Maine's human equivalent to Apple and more. You've seen the results of our 10-year internal study. More than 98% of our long-term leadership participants graduate from high school, compared to 76% of their like-resourced Maine peers. And 82.4% go on to post-secondary education, compared to just 48% of their like-resourced peers. So let's isolate that first outcome, 98%, compared to 76% graduating from high school. A Northeastern University study reported that, on average, a high school dropout will cost taxpayers an average of $292,000 over a lifetime. So what does that mean for the children of Camp Susan Curtis? Statistically, only 78 out of 100 will have the opportunity to infuse Maine's economy with their potential. But with Camp Susan Curtis, more than 98 out of 100 will beat that statistic. They'll reach high school graduation and a higher earning potential for Maine's communities. That's a sound investment. And what about the 80? Okay, yeah, thank you. And what about the 82% versus 48% going on to post-secondary education? You've no doubt heard the reports that by 2018, there will be 7 times more Maine jobs requiring post-secondary education than jobs for high school dropouts. So you ask the children of Camp Susan Curtis, how many of them thought that post-secondary education was even an option before they came to camp? Ask Jack, who said, I would not have seen college as a possibility if it had not been for Camp Susan Curtis. Or ask the parents, like the ones who told us, for the first time, my child has set a goal to go to college. Elise's story tells you that Camp Susan Curtis made a critical difference for her around her higher education. But Elise's story tells you so much more. It tells you that beyond beating the statistics, Elise is paying it forward As you heard, she is helping others because of Camp Susan Curtis. And so is Barani, a child development professional whom you saw in the video earlier tonight. And Brandon, our Scott F. Hutchison Scholarship recipient for 2014, who is studying paramedicine. So is Jesse, who spent 12 years at Camp Susan Curtis before accepting a position helping Maine parents succeed. All these young people and so many more Camp Susan Curtis alums are dedicated to impacting the lives of others. And they are doing so because they learned to lead at Camp Susan Curtis. We fondly remember all of them as campers, and we proudly watch as they become young leaders, compounding our investment and proving every day that every child matters at Camp Susan Curtis. These success stories happen because of you, and because of organizations like our lead sponsor, Citizens Bank, who is committed to supporting organizations that make a positive impact in the communities where we live and work. We thank you in all greatest heartfelt thanks. They also happen because of the amazing staff working with our children, in particular Terry Molks, whom you'll meet in a few minutes, and her talented leadership team. They happen because of our dedicated Board of Trustees, who give their time, their treasure, their talent to ensure the success of the children we serve. And they happen because of the visionary leaders that started it all. We thank and we remember each of them tonight. In particular, we want to remember Scott F. Hutchison. Besides being one of the most generous and noble human beings I have ever had the privilege to meet, Scott has been called a gardener of people. I'm one of the many who revels in bringing the earth's potential to life in my own garden, and as such, I cannot think of a greater compliment. Scott's character and contributions are effectively captured in the words of the late P.D. Merrill, who chose the words gardener of people to describe Scott and established a scholarship at Camp Susan Curtis to honor his friend and mentor. In the words of P.D. Merrill, the number and variety of people who have benefited over the years from Scott Hutchison's coaching will never be known. That's the way Scott prefers it, and that's the way mentoring has its greatest impact, when it's invisible, except to those who directly benefit. Yet many people are aware of Scott's quiet help toward the success of those faced with apparently insurmountable business or personal challenges. When his role is revealed in an innocent conversation, it is universally greeted with knowing admiration. P.D. Merrill. Scott's wife, Audrey, two of their daughters and their families are here with us tonight. On behalf of the children, please know that there are no words to express our gratitude to Scott, but please accept our most sincere thanks. The partnership of hundreds of people and organizations allows us to look to the future with confidence. Continuing partnerships like Bank of America, who in the 21st year of continuous sponsorship sent more than 15 children to Camp Susan Curtis in 2014. Thank you, BOA. In-kind partners like Pulp and Wire, who designed all of the assets for this wonderful celebration. And speaking of celebrations, an event like this takes a lot of hard work and dedication. A huge thank you and congratulations to our celebration committee chair, Laura Beckman of Unum. Our co-chair, Sonia Bowie of TD Bank. Our extraordinarily talented Director of Grants and Special Events, Lori Southworth, who coordinated this whole shindig. Our Camp Director, Terry Molks, our Director of Major Gifts, Deborah Cummings-Kadrawi, our Office Administrator, Jessica Eller, and all the many volunteers who contributed to this fantastic evening. Now, it is my great pleasure and my honor to present this evening's awards. In front of the stage, well, actually, she's making her way over. Making her way over right now is Jade. She's an arts program bridge camper, and she will assist in presenting this evening's awards. Thank you, Jade. Award recipients, as we recognize you, you can stand at your table and Jade will bring you your plaque. Our first award, the Governor Curtis Family Leadership Award, is presented in recognition of exemplary leadership that moves the Susan L. Curtis Charitable Foundation forward through generosity of service and/or financial support. Consigli Construction has exemplified leadership by befriending Camp Susan Curtis in a time of need, designating us as beneficiary of the first annual Consigli Invitational Golf Tournament, a $27,500 contribution. The extraordinary commitment that they showed to coordinate an extremely high caliber tournament is testament to the valuable leadership role the company plays in its industry and in communities region-wide. Thank you, Consigli. The Camp Susan Curtis Community Partnership Award recognizes a corporation, agency, or business that directly impacts the work of the foundation through in-kind services. We sometimes encounter unsung heroes in our work, those whose work behind the scenes is vital to our continued success. Tonight, we sing the praises of A.H. Blackstone Excavating, who has literally come to the rescue of Camp Susan Curtis on so many occasions and in some really, really, really difficult situations, providing expert advice and excavation services that have quite literally kept our doors open. Please join us in a rousing round of applause for A.H. Blackstone. Here, over this way. A.H. Blackstone has quietly and generously partnered with us over the years to help Maine children develop a solid foundation like those they build, equipping them to succeed through school and into the workforce. Our final award is the Camp Susan Curtis Spirit Award. This award recognizes an individual or a group that makes a direct impact on Camp Susan Curtis campers, families, or staff members. Being a tween and a teen is so difficult in today's media-driven society. Lauren Galley, president of Girls Above Society, has made it her mission to address these issues head-on by promoting self-confidence and leadership to girls. For the past 2 years, Lauren has traveled all the way from Texas, donating weeks of her time to lead our girls in thoughtful, self-esteem building and anti-bullying discussions and activities that relate directly to the challenges of being a young woman today. The sessions are powerful, engaging, and motivate our girls to think about themselves and their peers in a kind, compassionate, and non-judgmental way. Please join me in thanking Lauren Galley and Girls Above Society as we present her with the Camp Susan Curtis Spirit Award. All our partners make a difference every day in the disadvantaged Maine child's life. You make it possible for a child who believes that their future is predestined to experience a truly transformative change, believing instead in their own potential and aspiring to reach that potential. The change you support is permanent. It means a disadvantaged child will take the lessons, the skills, and the leadership that he learned at Camp Susan Curtis into every learning and life experience he has going forward. In other words, the change you support is a long-term investment with returns every day for as long as that child lives. On behalf of the children of Camp Susan Curtis, thank you for investing wisely. Now, if you would please join me in welcoming Terry Molks, our camp director.
"2014 was a milestone summer for Camp Susan Curtis. As we celebrated 40 years, our cumulative number of children served reached 16,000. The camper return rate was a record high 75%, and 82% of our staff rejoined us from years past. We completed a 10-year internal study on graduation rates, with 98.6% of our long-term leadership campers graduating from high school. The staff team treasured every moment, recognizing that those numbers are a sign of a high-quality program. And while all these facts and figures translate well to conversation and paper, what they don't adequately express is the absolute magic that is Camp Susan Curtis. I wish that I could capture that magic, like the delicate dancing flames of the final campfire, and package it up to send it home with each and every camper as a touchstone, or bottle it and sell it to other camps, because we are doing exactly what it is that all camps hope to achieve, providing life-changing moments that profoundly impact youth at camp and far beyond. The spirit of CSC, that magic, manifests itself in different ways that may not be fully recognized for years to come, but is immediately evident in how a camper acts, thinks, and carries themselves. At your tables are the buzzword insects that campers created for you to take home. While most of the words on the insects are fun or great, campers will later recognize that all that fun translates to learning and growth. A fellow camp director recently said, "Camp evolves throughout life. The car ride home is only the surface." How very true that is for Camp Susan Curtis. What I refer to as magic is an exhilarating balance of experiential learning, socialization, and recreation, all in the outdoors. Important research being conducted by the American Camp Association breaks down each of these components, matching them to the critical skills that can determine future success and striving to secure camp as an integral part of year-round education. The missing pieces theory hypothesizes that camp bridges essential gaps by providing youth with components that school, home, and community are not as capable of fulfilling. Because economically disadvantaged youth have more academic and support challenges than financially stable peers, the gaps tend to be more significant and less likely to be addressed by conventional means. Self-esteem, confidence, and acceptance are key factors to achievement in the present and the future. Camp changes the way that campers view themselves and others by creating an instant sense of belonging and widespread acceptance. Campers participate in discussions and activities that heighten motivation to achieve and resilience. When you know you have support, you are more likely to explore a wider worldview by standing up, speaking up, and articulating your values and beliefs. When you are encouraged to define your own success, you have an internal map that leads you to where you want to go, not to where people think you should be going. Camp Susan Curtis serves as a positive intervention, providing a knowledge bucket, as our staff affectionately call it, outside the academic confines of the classroom and the walls of home, making it easier, safer, and more fun for campers to test their boundaries, their power, their voice. We do this with intentional curriculum that emphasizes deeper learning, the ability to break down barriers and open the mind to new possibilities. The following strategies are prevalent in our camp culture. Character development. Based on the universal values of caring, honesty, respect, responsibility, citizenship, and fairness, this is the foundation of the camp experience. Communication. Our language consists of eye contact, handshakes, high five, hugs, laughter, and tears. With no screens to hide emotions, campers and staff have honest conversations while building vocabulary and articulating thoughts. Collaboration. Through teamwork and community living, group and personal goals are achieved. From cabin cleanup to experiential learning, all camper contributions are recognized as equal and valuable. Problem solving. Camp builds the skills needed to make beneficial decisions and resolve conflict through encouragement and collaboration rather than authoritative mandate. Critical thinking. Campers are able to weigh the consequences of words and actions, explore and assert their beliefs, and embrace decision-making processes that can be applied universally. Camp Susan Curtis would not be such a powerful force in the lives of Maine children without our staff. Every summer, 50 individuals immerse themselves in our beautiful corner of the world, dedicated to generating the incredible outcomes and happy campers we are best known for. Staff, almost half of whom are former campers, strengthen their own habits and skills while focusing on being positive role models. Compassion is their most notable strength, loving those that are hardest to love, nurturing interests and passions, listening and responding, facilitating a safe and supportive environment filled with the joy that comes from acceptance and belonging, creating the magic that inspires the momentum for raising aspirations, pursuing dreams, and defining success. Scott F. Hutchinson believed in the dreams of our campers, and his long-standing legacy will be the scholarship in his name. Presented each year to a former camper, scholarship recipients convey the significance of character and mentoring as inspired by Scott's example. Applicants demonstrate community involvement, capacity for personal growth and responsibility, and the inclination to respect and help others while being enrolled in an accredited college or vocational program with defined career aspirations. This year, our recipient is a longtime camper and staff member who quickly lights up a room with her engaging smile. While attending the University of Southern Maine, studying social work and criminology, she has been interning for us, doing everything from shredding paper, of which she is now a champion, to assisting with events, including the one that we are all at this evening. Please join me in congratulating Kendra McAllister. At this time, we would like to recognize Audrey Hutchinson for her contributions over the years, and Kendra will present her with a small token of our appreciation. We would also like to ask that the past scholarship recipients in the room please stand to be recognized. As a continuing tribute to Scott, we will also be hanging a plaque at camp to be updated each year with the current scholarship recipient. Now, I am very excited to invite to the stage our talented, dedicated Assistant Director, Timothy Even. He will be accompanying Jade Johnson, a 2014 START music camper. We are very grateful to her family for accompanying her tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, Jade Johnson.
You took my heart and all of my tears. You say
Great job, Jade. That was wonderful. Okay, has everybody been Instagramming and tweeting and Facebooking and all of that? I'm going to take your picture because I have really good news, and it's all because, are you smiling? Yes? Of you. We're going to announce the great totals tonight. The first thing, oh, by the way, hashtag CSC lead me in case you didn't notice that. Okay, the results of our pledges, first of all, tonight. The $100 Fort Bowie local certificate goes to Dennis and Joan Dyer, so congratulations. And the overnight stay at Harbortown Inn on the waterfront in Boothbay Harbor goes to the principal of Westbrook High School, John and Elizabeth Ross. Congratulations. Hey, John. Well done. You'll enjoy that getaway, I'm sure. All right, and now some very exciting news. Again, thank you all so much for being here tonight. I don't think there's a better way to celebrate the start of spring than to think about summer and all of the magical moments that are going to happen at Camp Susan Curtis for so many kids, thanks to your support and the support of everyone in our community tonight who isn't even here but gives throughout the year. So the number of campers sponsored through pledges from this very event tonight is 17. That is a total of $20,365. Well done. Thank you so, so much. Governor Curtis, Mrs. Curtis, we're so pleased you could be with us again this year, and thank you for your vision again and for making so many dreams come true for incredible kids like Elise, who was so inspiring. Let's all think about that throughout the weekend and the rest of the year. Have a great night, everyone, and thank you for supporting Camp Susan Curtis.